Grazie, grazie a tutti di essere qui. Io non potevamo sperare in un inizio migliore di questo festival, non potevamo sperare di più, di avere due grandissimi artisti, scrittori, showrunner che hanno fatto, che fanno la storia della serialità contemporanea, non solo della letteratura e anche evidentemente del cinema, nel caso di John Ridley. Quindi io vi prego di dare un grande benvenuto a questi due amici che hanno deciso di dialogare insieme in questa conversazione che è dedicato ovviamente a Federico Fellini, perché siamo nel suo cinema, nel cinema Fulgoro, dove Federico Fellini ha iniziato a sognare il mondo che poi l'ha portato a diventare il regista che è diventato, e quindi questa è la rappresentazione plastica di quello che noi vogliamo raccontarvi, Lost in Fellini. Quindi Carlton Cuse e John Ridley. Prego, loro non hanno le cuffie, quindi io parlerò in inglese. Thank you very much for being here. I was saying that I couldn't hope for a better start for our festival than having both of you here. I had the honor and the privilege to meet Carlton several years ago, and the father of this festival that it was called Roma Fiction Fest. He was there with Damon Lindelof and a part of the cast. We had a great time, and I invited him to be back here and to talk about not only his wonderful works, but also his dreams, how he became what he has become as a great showrunner and writer. And I asked him, do you want to talk to somebody? And he said, why, what do you think of John Ridley? And the funny thing was that I had all John Ridley's books, as I had proof outlining, because I'm a great fan, not only of his work as a writer, as a showrunner, but also as a writer of books, as a romanziere, we would say in Italiano, writers of novels. So I say, what, that would be a dream. So this is my dream, to have both of them on this stage with us. And thank you very much for being here. And yesterday you said beautifully on stage how Federico Fellini influenced you in a way. Could you elaborate a little bit for our audience, please?
It's when I was in college, I watched a lot of European cinema at two theaters near my school, and I really was mesmerized by the work of Fellini and Antonioni, and it was incredible because it was just different. It was sort of the cinema of the subconscious. I mean, it was about mood and mystery and imagery and dreams, and it was ambiguous. And Fellini movies, I can't claim that I understood his intention, but I think maybe that was the intention, and I would think about them, and that really stuck with me, and I was amazed at the kind of the boldness and the originality of his vision as a filmmaker. And then it was just at a very formative time where I was watching the movies and thinking about all the things that led me on my journey to become a writer and a producer and a director. And then a few years later, well, many years later, I was doing Lost, and it was sort of the perfect confluence of the right show to bring those influences into existence. Lost was a show that was really driven by mystery, and also I'd been through this phase in my career where, you know, in network television, it was very literal. You'd always get notes like, explain it more, make it more clearly, make the subtext text, and it was so deeply annoying that given the opportunity and the freedom of a successful show to not do that was really both kind of subversive and also absolutely delightful. And I wanted our show to be purposely ambiguous, intentionally mystifying, a place where the audience had to participate in the process and where many things were left up for your own interpretation. And the power of mystery to drive story itself was something that was very evident in Fellini's work, and something that we could then do in Lost. And so I wouldn't say it was just something that really permeated in a way the way we thought about how we could tell story. And then now to be here, this is an incredible full circle event to be back here, and to be here in Rimini, and to be back with Marco, who I met so many years ago when we were making Lost, and had such a wonderful time. And he's a fantastic guy. And
thank you very much.
And
my wife is not here, unfortunately. But I hope that if somebody has a recording, could send to me, would be nice.
Anyway, so to be here is kind of surreal, which also is Fellini-esque in itself. You know, that I would end up back here at a festival in his hometown, honoring him. So I feel like there's a journey in all of that.
John, what about you? In your novels, often talk about cinema, about the fascination of Hollywood on you. And what about Fellini's work? What about movies? Do you have this type of the same? Do you share the same love for European cinema, from black and white, from the '60s?
First, I'm sorry, is this on?
Yes.
You can all hear me? I just want to echo what Carlton said about how truly amazing it is to be here, to be at the festival, to be in Rimini, to be to be looking at a room full of people who assume we have anything to say about Mr. Fellini that people don't already know or feel or have seen for, ages now. So it's wonderful to be here. I appreciate being here, and just thank you for having all of us, I think not just Carlton and myself, but all of the artists that you've invited from around the world to participate this evening. So, I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is, do you share the same influence of Fellini? When did you meet his work?
Yeah, I would disagree with Carlton and his take on Fellini. No, I just to say something a little different. I think the great thing about Fellini is that he comes to you in a way that it is open to interpretation. I think everything you said about Lost is unique, because it wasn't like, here's what you need to think, and here's us saying 4 or 5 times this about the character, this about the situation. So I think that's, I'm kidding, that's obviously a wonderful and valid interpretation. But just to say something different so we don't repeat each other. I do think, like, if I'm thinking about it, and this is just opinion, I think that when you look at like Fellini's work, for me a lot of what's coming out of it is just that early European street photography style and the concept of the second life. So you see a lot of Fellini's work, and there's something initial in it that you talk about that's a little surreal or feels odd or unusual. But then literally he'll step back in the lens and you see the context around it, and that it's not weird or unusual, but that it is part of life or society. And I think what's powerful about that is because ultimately, and particularly in a lot of cinema or even in life, there's that desire for perfection in what we see. And one of the things that's really challenging, and I'm sorry if I just go on and on and on, but when people take cell phone pictures now, folks want to take out that thing that's on the edge, that's odd or unusual or seems a little weird, but that's what Fellini was trying to get, the things on the edge that seem odd to me or weird to me, but when you look at it in context, that's somebody's friend or family or father or mother or sister, and they have a life or they have a reason to exist, or it's really, really beautiful. I just thought like last night's show was so beautiful, and it just happened. We were talking about sometimes you do so many shows and they're so programmed down to the moment that it loses its spontaneity. And I just thought last night was beautiful because so much of it just happened. So I know I'm going on and on and on about that, but to me it's more about that second life. And you can, see that in Saul Leiter, you can see it in Fan Ho. You see the totality of it, and I think it's a shame because we're losing it. And by the way, I think you can see that line from Fellini to Bertolucci to Sorrentino, who I love, and I think he's the master right now. And if you haven't seen The Great Beauty, I would encourage you to see it because it's probably one of the greatest films ever made. Also Loro, which I don't know how that was received here, but it's just beautiful in its loneliness, and I just think it's a beautiful film about lonely.
I want to say that yesterday I offered Mr. Ridley to call Paolo Sorrentino, who is a friend, and he refused. He said that he didn't want to, that he was too shy. So you see, these things is very complicated to do. But before Mr. Ridley leaves, we will call Paolo and tell him what you just said. What I want to share with you an episode, what happened 20 years ago, maybe a little more. I was in Rome. I just left a place. It was very early in the morning, like 2 a.m. And I was alone in the street. And I happened to meet Federico Fellini, who was there. And I said, am I dreaming? And I said, Maestro, what you're doing here? Did you need help? Because he was already a little bit old. And he said, no. And this is something that also a very important Italian director, Carlo Verdone, confirmed that it wasn't his habit. He did it often. I'm waiting for the police. And I say, did you do something? Did somebody rob you? No, I have a friend who takes me around to see the life. And this is true. I mean, I'm not that smart to make up this kind of a story, but he was there. And I said, okay, Maestro, see you soon. Thank you very much. And he basically used police as a taxi to go around. And somebody told me that once somebody get arrested, and the guy was chatting with the Fellini in the back of the police car. I wanted to know, what is your experience as writer that you had? I mean, he said, I want to submerge myself in life. Do you submerge yourself in life like this, or you have other approaches, let's say?
I mean, I like having, I created a show early in my career called Nash Bridges, it ran for like 6 years on CBS, and it was a cop show, and it was set in San Francisco, and I went to ride around with some police in San Francisco, and it was this undercover police unit, and literally within 20 minutes of riding along with them, they were in pursuit of a suspect who was a gun dealer, and then they saw him in these projects called Hunters Point in South San Francisco, and then they bailed out of the car and started running after him, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do, so I started following behind them, but not too close. And the guy had a gun, and he took the gun and he threw it part of the way through the chase, and there were other people who were kind of watching, who thought I was a cop, but I wasn't. I wanted to be near the actual real cops, and then the one guy was one of the cops was an ex-football player, and he tackled this guy, and then put him in the back of the car with me. He was handcuffed, and they were saying, "Would you have any questions for him?" And so I've had some experiences like that, but I appreciate that Fellini was still doing it
Yes.
later in his career.
Can I ask you a legit question?
Maybe. Go.
For real? So we opened the show with that scene from Lost, and it's amazing. And we talk about writing, and you're asking me about writing. And I mean this. I think the best writing is when there are no words, right? So how did you all construct and execute, also, you talk about things that are lost, like, that scene is Fellini-esque because it actually evolves, right? It actually takes the time to evolve. But how do you construct that, and how did you all construct it in a way that was so actor-centric?
Well, that's the thing, and one of the reasons I love that scene is because television sometimes puts undue emphasis on dialogue, and I love when you can construct a scene that is basically driven visually. And it was kind of our idea early on in the first season of the show that we were going to end the first season with an attempt to get off the island, that this is the thing that everyone expected, but we were going to deliver. I think it's great when you can deliver the audience what they expect, but in a way, not in the way that they expect it. And so the raft exit at the end of the season is great, and it seems really uplifting, and then you see that column of smoke, and that does not bode well for what's going to happen in the future. But the thing I love the most about television is that it's a collaborative medium. I mean, it starts with words on a page, and in this case it was describing the raft launch, and then it gets put in the hands of hundreds of people, including spending all the time designing the raft. Was it a monohull? Was it a catamaran? Well, let's make it a catamaran, and what do we want it to look like, and how fast do we want it to go, and how seaworthy should it be? And then getting together with the cast, and then our director, Jack Bender, who was our producing director on the show, basically getting out there and with our words and with the cast, formulating a way to sort of bring that to life where they all contributed. And they had now a full season where they'd been in those characters, playing those characters, and were those people, and giving them a chance to sort of breathe as those characters, and how would you say goodbye to the other characters that you've met and spent. And it was an incredibly powerful journey, because here were these actors who came and did this weird show that everyone thought was going to be canceled, that instead turned into this monster hit, and they were all isolated on Hawaii and the island of Oahu together, and there was this, every week there would be sort of a main character featured. We wrote it so that there'd be a Kate episode or a Jack episode or a Sawyer episode, and whoever's episode it was would host all the other actors at their house for dinner to watch the show, and so they were really bonded up. So that all came together, and I love that scene because it was immensely collaborative. And I'm going to shut up quickly here, but maybe the most profound experience that I had on Lost was then at the end of the season. We were so busy making the show, we made 24 episodes in 10 months of that show. And after we finished, we were finished writing, and that gave us the luxury to go to the scoring stage. And Michael Cicchino, our brilliant composer of the show, had written this music, and the orchestra, which was about 60 players, they would just sight read. So they put the cue up and they started playing it, and I mean, it was just the most beautiful thing, and everybody started weeping. And when they finished, all the musicians were tapping their strings on, we're all tapping their bows together, and it was just this kind of culminating, intensely emotional moment of communion after this really rigorous first season of making the show. And so on every levels, I think it reflects the kind of collaboration that you hope for and dream for making television.
Let's see another clip from Lost.
We shouldn't be this close to each other, Jack.
If we blow up, we blow up. What the hell was all that about back there, John?
What was what about?
You asked me to let you go.
That's right.
Now, that thing was taking you down the hole, and you asked me to let you go.
Hurt me.
No, John, it was gonna kill you.
I seriously doubt that.
Look, I need for you to explain to me what the hell's going on inside your head, John. I need to know why you believe that thing wasn't gonna...
I believe that I was being tested.
Tested?
Yeah, tested. I think that's why you and I don't see eye to eye sometimes, Jack. Because you're a man of science.
Yeah. What does that make you?
Me? Well, I'm a man of faith. Do you really think all this is an accident? That we, a group of strangers, survived? Many of us with just superficial injuries? You think we crashed on this place by coincidence? Especially this place? We were brought here for a purpose, for a reason, all of us. Each One of us was brought here for a reason.
Brought here. And who brought us here, John?
The island. The island brought us here. This is no ordinary place. You've seen that. I know you have. The island chose you too, Jack. It's destiny.
Did you talk with Boone about destiny, John?
Boone was a sacrifice that the island demanded. What happened to him at that plane was a part of a chain of events that led us here, that led us down a path, that led you and me to this day, to right now.
And where's that path end, John?
The path ends at the hatch. The hatch, Jack. All of it. All of it happened so that we could open the hatch.
No, we're opening the hatch so that we can survive.
Survival is all relative, Jack.
I don't believe in destiny.
Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet.
Before moving forward, let me take time to salute Sally Scott and Bertie Carvel that will be part of the conversation afterwards. I woke up at 6 a.m. in the morning, Rome time, to watch live the show that was broadcasted in the US. This is unique, what happened. Now watching it now, how do you feel watching this image? Because the destiny, somebody wrote that it is lost is a prophetic show that somehow, what do you think now?
Well, I guess the destiny brought me here, so
yeah.
I believe in destiny now. It's when you watch your work, I think you're filled with all kinds of emotions, and I'm very proud of Lost. It makes me feel nostalgic. It makes me kind of remember everything that went into it, especially all the human connections that were a part of the show, and the things that we were talking about in the show were very much happening behind the scenes as a whole group of people bonded up and spent 6 years together, connected in ways that we never imagined, and so yeah, it's emotional to watch it, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Did you watch Lost, or you already meet?
No, if I'm going to be honest, I did not watch Lost. I don't watch much television. I have to be honest, I love film and I love cinema, and I'm not lying or kidding when I say I watch a film almost every day. It's just and I love TV, and I think TV always kind of gets the short shrift. Like, people talk about, the days of cable television caught up. But if you go back and you look at Rod Serling's work, The Angry Young Man, if you look at both his work in live television space, like Playhouse 90, those were days of like TV cinema, to do live television with live switching, and they're actors that have to perform, top to bottom and hit it every step of the way. And then, for some reason, I think there may have been a fallow period in television, but it was also the bold periods. You look at Norman Lear's work, you look at Bochco's work, there were always people who were pushing and trying to get those boundaries. And I think, to me, that's that cool thing about TV, because film, it just takes time, and by the time the film hits, the mood may have changed, or what people are thinking has changed, or the zeitgeist has changed. But TV, now it's certainly more elongated, forgive me, but there's still a bit more immediacy to it. And it is, to me, a writer's medium, and I don't say that as though it's better than cinema, but I do, again, going back to what we saw, the braveness, to me, of saying, this scene is going to play the way it plays, and there's not going to be any words, and you're going to trust the performers to actually give you all of that. And just in my experience, when you offer up that trust to any department, you get more back than just saying, it's got to be this, it's got to be this, it's got to be this. I think there's certainly times you got to have discipline, script discipline, shot discipline, work discipline. The discipline has to be there, but it's also part of that discipline. It's like with your kids. You say, look, don't go past this or this, but have fun and play. So if you don't go over here, it's all good. But my God, have the best time you can have while you're doing that.
I would say that there are a few shows that for me are beyond the medium itself, that have a literary quality. That you think of these shows as you think of Pride and Prejudice, Crime and Punishment, Hamlet, The Odyssey, something that is a classic, because that's beyond the medium itself. And one of the show is, for me, 5 Days at Memorial. For me, it's, I remember I saw it only once, and I wanted to see it again, because it's like you see something that is so impressed you that you don't want to. It's an experience that you can't repeat. And it really has this literary quality, and it really freezes you, because you don't know about it. At least I didn't know anything about the story. So every time I saw the epilogue, I would say, now I want to check who was it. How did you make such a masterpiece together?
Well, I'll at least tell the story of how it came to be made. I don't know about the masterpiece part, but
I can sign it to you.
It was an incredible nonfiction book written by a New York Times journalist named Sherry Fink, also a medical doctor. She won the Pulitzer Prize for this. She uncovered the story of what happened in a hospital in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. 80% of New Orleans was under 10 feet of water. 2,000 people were trapped in this hospital, and they were stuck there for 5 days, and it was hot, and there was no power, and they didn't know how they were going to get out, when they were going to get out. They had no information or disinformation or misinformation, and at the end of 5 days, a well-meaning doctor was accused of euthanizing 23 of these patients. What?
No, I was asking about the volume.
I see. And the story explores how she came to make the decision to do this. And then the last 3 episodes are basically an investigation that took place to determine whether what she did was justifiable. And that felt like a pretty interesting story to tell, because it was all wrapped up in issues of equality and medical ethics. And so I love working in collaboration, and I feel like I work best when I have someone I can, who I really respect, who I can bounce ideas with and sort of use as the collaboration process is so much an essence of what, is the way I like to work. And so literally the person who I thought of was John Ridley. I had watched a bunch of his work. I didn't know John. I was like, it would be my dream to get John to do this, and so I sent him the book, and he actually responded to it, and then we got together, and it was a dream to get to make a project like that. It's not easy to get someone to give you a lot of money to tell a story that's that kind of uncompromising, but the other joy that came along with making the show was my relationship with John. It was just this fantastic experience. I mean, it's no accident that John has an Oscar for writing. He's a brilliant, thoughtful, Okay, but anyway, he's
No.
an amazing guy. He really is. Amazing.
So,
All right, now it's your turn.
now, before asking John about it, I want to say something. We have a clip. And I want to say something my professor in middle school told me before reading War and Peace, and said, you didn't read War and Peace. How lucky you are, because you can make this journey for your first time. So if you watch 5 Days at Memorial, you know what I'm talking about. If you do not, after this clip tonight, you can start watching how lucky you will be to make this journey.
It's on Apple TV.
Yes.
As far as her mindset, as far as our mindset, after we survived the hurricane, we thought that we could survive anything. And we were wrong. Lord, were we wrong.
Can I say, by the way, that out of all the work, everything Carlton did, all that show, that was, and people, I don't know, people seem to like it when they watch it, right? Right? I mean, people wax on it. But
Yes,
that was the
we
only,
like it
that
very,
was the
very much.
Emmy that the show got was for that
For
shot,
visual
for the
effects.
visual effects. So it's a great clip to show, because out of a lot of phenomenal work that went into that show, that was the one that got recognized, and well deserved, because that was like, and if, you know, in a time, what people don't know about Katrina, people think the hurricane hit and then it was a disaster, and that's not what happened. The hurricane hit, and I think, and forgive me, 48, 72 hours later is when the levees broke. So, you know, even the images we see, people didn't see that rush of water. They didn't see that water hit. They didn't see it come in, and I think the team that put that together just did a masterful job of showing people the ferocity. You know, you talk about the inequality and all that. The people who are most affected, you know, I don't want to get political, but it's the same people who are going to be affected by data centers, pollution, whatever. You know, and those people tended to be more black and brown people. So there's a big long line, and the fact that you got it made is pretty spectacular.
Yes, but what is amazing of this show, that it starts...
Jerry Jones, Jesus, forgot about. I mean, that's the other thing, is to have like just the Justice League of actors, you know, in Canada, and you just like, okay, you know, I mean, so you have like
we shot it in Canada, a lot of it, because it was during COVID, and so we were making a show about you know, a medical crisis that happened when there was. There were no medical supplies, when people were trapped places during COVID, and we had to shoot in Canada because of the danger. We couldn't go to New Orleans; there was too much COVID, and you know, we had all these people crammed in a hospital, and it wasn't safe. So we went to Canada, because at that time there was very little COVID there, and then we were all kind of locked down as a company making that show while we were doing it. So it was an incredibly intense personal experience, because we only could socialize with each other, and but it was, you know, it was amazing to do that, and I try to learn a lot from everything that I do, and like watching John direct on that show was something that I learned a lot from. Yeah.
Before watching another clip, the thing is that when you start watching this show, you think it's a story about a disaster, and then it becomes a moral dilemma and a tragedy. It takes. How did you work on this crescendo? Because especially for audiences who didn't know fully the story, it's really, in the end, you are like in the middle of a whirlwind, because it's amazing what you do.
I mean, can I just say, and I know you mentioned her name, but you know, Sherry Fink's book and the reporting, honestly, to me, the whole thing, and where things get funky, is when people want to deviate from reality. All of it was there, those rhythms, those, you know, I don't want to imply that somehow tragedy equates entertainment, but in the construction of the narrative, there were these beats. You know, we could have the second episode where there was almost a bait and switch, like you were talking about with Lost, where people were like, wait, what, I thought Katrina hit. I thought
The
everything
hurricane was
destroyed.
passing, everything was fine, everybody
People are
seemed okay.
outside, they're having a great time, they're smiling, and everybody thought it passed. But narratively, again, I'm not trying to say that other people's tragedy is our entertainment, but in the power of the storytelling, to see people not seeing literally the water that's rushing towards them. So it was all in Sherry's reporting. It was all in the reportage. It was all in being honest. And yeah, you got to conflate characters, or this happened, but in the sake of, you know, we got X amount of time. But I just have to give praise to Sherry and even her exactitude. I have to be honest, in the moment, sometimes it was really frustrating, but she was there to protect the people she reported on. So, you know, all praise to her. I don't want to say what we did was easy, but it was all there. The hardest part was, okay, how do you get it down to, what did we do, 6 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours?
8 hours.
8 hours? You know, how do you get all this story down to 8 hours?
Let's watch another clip.
Emmett? The staff is being told to evacuate the hospital. And they're making us leave. And they're making us leave right now.
You said you wasn't gonna leave me.
There are gonna be doctors here from Memorial. They're gonna take care of you, stay with you.
But they still gonna get me out of here, right?
They're gonna stay with you. Nobody's gonna leave you alone.
Leave it all. If you come to it, my wife's name is Carrie.
I know.
Tell him. Just tell him whatever. God has truly blessed you. Just look to the future. Just move on forward.
I'm sorry.
This is the 4th of July. And I think
Happy
that what
Independence Day to you.
it's an important date for the US, it's an important date for everyone abroad, all over the world, who believes about freedom. And what we learn from American cinema, from American television, from media, from you, that you can sometimes restore not the justice, but to say the truth through a show like this. I don't want to get how it happened in reality, but I mean, you had, what I loved of this show is the fact that in a way you told us the truth. And the truth escaped to some media, to traditional legacy media, or even to the, let's say, the all of justice is maybe not all the people face what they needed to face. So how was the responsibility for you to tell this story? Because this story will stay and echo in time.
You know, the only thing I would say is, you know, with respect to the show and Carlton and Sherry Fink wrote it, you know, we tell the truth, but then what do we choose to do with it?
Yeah. I would say that the truth of this particular story was very important to us. I think that there's a lot of these kinds of narratives that get put through the lens of fiction. There's sort of a desire to sort of sensationalize what went on. I would say that this was a very her book was highly accurate, deeply researched. She spent 6 years, conducted 600 interviews, working on it, and won the Pulitzer Prize for the level of kind of journalistic effort and talent that went into it. But for us, we were, as John said, we were just trying to be truthful to this story, that we felt that the best version of putting this story out there was one that was, you know, accurate, and that by being accurate and being authentic, it would be powerful and it would be lasting, and that the lessons that came about, the lessons that we learned from what happened, hopefully there would be lessons that would be learned from what happened, but that by showing it just in its plainest form, people could then think about this event and hold it up as maybe a model for, you know, what not to do in the future.
I will say, can I say real quick, and I'm just being honest, and it was kind of heartbreaking, you know, the show did not do well in terms of cultural density, but I'll tell you one of the things that's really, really wonderful is that, first of all, obviously, I think I can call you a friend, has been really, really nice. But, you know, every once in a while, Carlton, you know, he'll send me a link, and something was going on that touched upon tangentially what was going on in 5 Days Memorial, and someone will write about it like, oh, and I don't mean in a comparison like a version of a show is better or what we did is better, but somebody will say, this show, and I'm talking about another show, really excels, but man, if you want to get in there with the first responders, the nurses, the patients, see 5 Days at Memorial. And I think that's really the beautiful thing. I think we all wish, oh God, I wish we had this thing that was whatever, name the thing that comes out and everybody instantly falls in love with it. It's artistic, it makes money, you know, it's just that unicorn. But I do think there's something very, very nice that this is archived there, and there are those kinds of people that are willing to find it and endure it, because it's an endurance, I can't lie. You know, I think that truly got me out of the
I think there's like one joke.
I'm literally like, I'm looking back at this and I'm just like freaking traumatized, because, you know, the other thing is, you know, the performers carry this. Like you said, it was a bubble. It's not like they could go home to their kids or family or decompress. And
Julianne Emery.
She had a prosthetic playing a real nurse who was really carrying a child. That, again, the reality of that cycle of life and birth and loss. And it really got to the point, and it wasn't that she was a method actor, but you just got used to seeing her in that very motherly role. And so there was just an intensity to the whole thing. So it was just weird. And the only thing I really remember is after it got put into turnaround, the only thing I really remember the production is you and I walking through the hills, and you're like, it's gonna be all right, John, we're gonna get it on the air. And Carlton did, but everything else was like, I gotta get out of the frickin' misery business. So enjoy it. That was like the last one for me.
our time is almost up. We have, the summer school, we have a lot of students here. What would be the best advice you could share with them?
Be happy. Happiness is a choice.
Carlton,
I would say that, just practice your craft. I think my favorite, quote in Hollywood is Akira Kurosawa was making Ron. He was in his 70s, and he said, I think I'm just figuring out how to make movies, which was ridiculous because he's, one of the greatest directors that's ever walked the earth. But I think it spoke to the idea that his life was about perfecting his craft and just trying to do what he did and get better and better at doing it. And I think that if you kind of try to shut out all the noise and do that and really try to be the best version of who you think you want to be as an artist, I think that will both be rewarding and probably lead you to the places that you want to go.
I don't have words how to thank you for sharing with us this moment. We met Federico Fellini, also Jesus show up with Mr. Robert Powell. So what we can ask more? Thank you very much, Carlton Cuse, John Ridley, and now I leave the floor to Berti Carvello and Ilaria Raverino, please.